This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning and good evening for everyone who has joined. A quick introduction about me. I'm Satish. I've close to 16 years of experience in IT in the various departments, starting with performance testing, performance engineering, and then product developments. And also been with training with Isha for last 2 to 3 years. I've been conducting various sessions on performance engineering and then the performance testing tool like K6, Linux for performance, Selenium for performance, DevOps. So few of these are the courses which I've been taking for Isha for last 2 to 3 years. And this batch, uh, which is starting from today, is focused on tailored for the performance engineering that will be required in a day-to-day life of a performance tester, right? It's tailored in such a way that it covers all the critical areas, all the areas which is something we might end up using it uh, along with the performance testing. Okay, so today what I'll do is I'll just go over the introduction about the course, what we mean by performance engineering, okay, and what all topics we are going to cover in the session, and and also what kind of softwares we are going to use it, how are we going to what is the prerequisite that is required from you to practice on your own. All these things I'll cover it in today's session. Yeah, and at the end, I'll take the questions as well. During the session, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I'll try to answer it now and then, or I'll probably try to answer it at the end. Okay. Okay. So most of you who have joined today, I believe you've been doing some performance testing already. You might have already have experience in performance testing, scripting, execution, analysis. Somebody might be doing a little bit of engineering already. That is my assumption. Or you might be already doing some kind of a testing at least, right? Being manual testing or an automation testing. Okay. Um, so when we talk about performance tester or performance test engineer, performance test analyst, right? So you might be doing scripting execution. You might be using LoadRunner or a Jmeter or a new load. Okay, and the typical the way the performance tester works, or the way from the skill set perspective, as I said, they might be good in scripting execution. They might be doing some kind of a monitoring with whatever tool that is available. Okay, and then they do analysis of your load testing tool reports, and they provide those analysis to the development team. They might use the Dynatrace or AppDynamics to provide the high-level analysis, and typically they will not be involved in any of the early performance engineering or tuning or bottleneck analysis. Okay, there's going to be a separate team who will be doing the performance engineering, and most of the places that is an ask as well, right? You just come here, do testing, do scripting, execution, and provide the report because of various reasons earlier. But now, at least in last 2 years or 3 years, with Agile coming into picture, with small pods teams working in a pod, where everybody is expected to do everything. Even a developer is expected to do a testing, or a tester is expected to do a little bit of development work. Right. So the team size is getting reduced. Teams are expecting multi-skill capabilities. So at this moment, we cannot expect a separate performance engineering team and a testing person to do different activities, right? The situation is where a developer is expected to do a testing and tester is expected to do a little bit of development. Now, there is no way that you might have a separate people who might be doing both testing and engineering. So, a lot of places, people expect a tester to do the engineering as well. Okay, so which means you as a performance tester, you should be able to do certain things. Right, whatever I listed in the right hand side, all these things are all some of the basic things which a tester should be able to do it in his project. He should be able to do the server side profiling, CPU profiling, memory profiling, client side profiling, right? You working with along with the developers, um, more of a shift left, right? Getting engaged in early in the life cycle, and then doing the server side profiling, client side profiling. You should be able to go and take the dumps when there's a problem during the load test, right? Depending upon the type of problem, you should be able to go and take the heap dump, the dumps, analyze those dumps to find out the bottlenecks, and you should be able to analyze the database layer as well using AWS reports. And you should be hands-on in tools like JProfiler, JVisual VM, JConsole. We have been using LoadRunner, Jmeter, some of the monitoring tool. On top of that, to carry out the profiling work, right? To do engineering activity, you should have these kind of a profiling tools, Java analysis tools, and at least one of the technology, right? See, the application which we have performance test are technology agnostics. It can be Java, it can be .NET, it can be Python, it can be Node.js. There are a number of programming languages, programming frameworks available, but at least a very basic and widespread, widely used technology, right? Java is still widely used. In any of your enterprise architecture, you will definitely still see Java or Spring Boot in the architecture components. So should be at least good in concepts about JVM, how to benchmark the JVM, how to set parameters, how to tune the JVM. All these things are again from a role perspective, a performance tester to do the performance engineering activity. You should be good in that as well. And of course, one of the APM tool, right? Everybody, being a developer and architect, without an APM tool, it is not going to be that easy to go and do a diagnostics. Whoever it is, right? They will still need an help of tool, be it as a testing or be it as a engineering. Without a tool, no one prefers to do any of this testing or engineering activity. So you should be at least good in one of the APM tool in terms of connecting an agent to your application server, doing all these monitoring, diagnostics, root cause analysis. So APM tool, anyone, Dynatrace or AppDynamics or New Relic, any APM tool is going to work in a pretty much similar fashion. So you should be hands-on in any of one of the APM tools. Okay, and from a monitoring perspective, again, either an open source monitoring tool or any of these Dynatrace kind of a tool, you should be comfortable using it from monitoring as well. And of course, little bit of Linux is required because most of your apps are going to be hosted in Linux. So you should be good in some hands-on with Linux commands in terms of uh, getting a CPU, memory, looking into error logs, installing the softwares. So you should be get comfortable with the Linux environmental as well. Okay. Now with left and right together, right? When you're going to attend an interview, and then when you're going to talk about yourself, if you're going to just talk about the left hand side, right? It's a typical testing profile. But when a interviewer is going to listen to you, where you're going to talk about, I know all these things in the left, and in the right hand side, maybe you might not have a lot of experience in doing all this activity, but we're going to go and say, I know all these things, I've done hands on, I've done it all on my own. Every activity what I told earlier, I've done it on my own out of interest. I've learned, I have done hands on, right? Then you will be definitely be evaluated very much high when compared to a person who goes to talk about testing alone. Okay, see, you're not going to go and tell you are a very well experienced engineer having 6 years, 8 years, 4 years, 5 years. No, what I'm going to say, you're going to tell your passion. I'm good in testing already. I have a good experience, 5 years, 8 years of testing experience. I wanted to equip myself in engineering as well. I know all these engineering topics, engineering activities. I have learned, I have certified. I also installed all these things. I have done the hands-on work by myself. If you're going to portray yourself, then that is where your they will evaluate you more, definitely very very high than your others, and the chances of cracking the interviews, getting a very good project is very very high. Okay, so these two things are going to be very important when you're going to put yourself in terms of the competition. Okay, so yeah, tester does the scripting, execution, analysis, reporting. Engineering is going to be combination of all these things, whatever I mentioned here, right? Combination of testing, of course, you're already there. System analysis it comprises of all these things. When I say system analysis, will include all these activity, and then programming a little bit, maybe not mandatory, but it is good to have some basic knowledge about any of the programming language, because when we are going to talk to a developer, right, we are going to go and talk to them, tell about you have a memory issue, you have a heap issue, there's a leak, your method is having a high response time. So we're going to talk about something more technically to them, right? So to talk to them confidently, to talk to them, it should not be such a way it is a black box for you, right? You without even knowing what is method, what is object, our program is written, our program is compiled and bundled. Without knowing all these basic things, if you're going to go and talk to a developer, uh, just what tool is saying, then there is going to be a lot of pushback, a lot of feedback from the developer, which will not good for our confidence or even to provide all this analysis. Okay, so to talk confidently to the developer, to communicate effectively, if you at least know some basics about the program, we're not going to go and write a code, we're not going to go and develop applications, right? More in terms of getting ourselves comfortable in that area. So little bit of programming basics are good. Same way networking and administration also, right? So in current world, you are expected to go and install everything on your own in your load generators or in your missions where you're going to profile it, right? So you should be able to go and install softwares, install tools by yourself. You cannot expect somebody to help you out, right? Even a database or even an application server, a Tomcat server, or a JBoss server, or your Java or any of the softwares, you should be able to go and install it, configure it. That kind of a networking administration knowledge also it is required. Okay, so majorly, yeah, your system analysis and then your testing, little bit of programming and administration is required from a engineering perspective. Okay, so this programming things, I'll probably at the beginning, before going deep dive into engineering, right, I have a topic where we will cover this. Think like a developer. Okay, so how a developer will create a code, will create multiple programs. What is class, what is method, how different class files are will communicate with each other. How one class will call another class file. How a DB connection is done, how an HTTP connection is done. So all these basic things from a Java perspective, from a JVM perspective, we'll cover it only because whatever we in the engineering we are going to do it, we are going to keep talking about class, we're going to talk about method, we're going to talk about objects. So it should not be a black box for you, right? It should be, you should know at least what is what. You should have some kind of a hands-on. So we'll cover some hands-on as well from a programming perspective. Okay, that will be our first session when we get started with the engineering, maybe in a couple of days. Okay, so again, very quick recap of all the activity from an engineering perspective. Whatever I've spoken about in the initially, that is what a performance engineering engineer is going to do it. Okay, 2-3 things which I missed out is the reviewing the system architecture, right? So that comes with experience, because when somebody is going to design an architecture, and you're also going to get a requirement from your business saying, this is my non-functional requirement, right? My response time should be within 3 seconds. Availability is 100%. So with this requirement, we should analyze the architecture, to see whether this architecture, these components will be able to meet these response time SLA. See, normally what we do, applications getting developed, then we go into a profiling, then we go into a scripting execution, and then say that, okay, login is not meeting the SLA, which is 3 months, 6 months, 8 months down the line. But at the beginning itself, an architect or a senior performance engineer should review the architecture, review the components, look into the expectation, and see whether this architecture will be able to support this SLA. There are 4 or 5 components involved for a login, for example, right? You have a Java component, it goes to an LDAP, it goes to a single sign-on server, it comes back, it makes an entry into a Oracle DB, and then it generates a token, and then it gives a session to your user with 5-6 components involved. If the expectation is going to be 3 seconds, is it realistic? Okay, either the architecture has to be changed or the response time expectation has to be increased, right? So these kind of a review has to happen very early, so that the stakeholders are aware of what is expected, right? Because after 6 months, nobody can go and do magic to, we can do a profiling, we can do a tuning, but you cannot bring down the response time from 6 seconds to 3 seconds if the architecture is designed in such a way. So as a senior performance engineer or architect, they will also get involved in the review of the architecture as part of the one of the engineering activity. Okay, but otherwise, apart from that, creating an engineering strategy, and then creating a monitoring strategy, and then doing a shift left performance engineering, client side profiling, server side profiling, heap dump, thread dump, GC analysis, JVM tuning, JVM benchmarking, database analysis. All these things are going to be part of our typical performance engineering work, which we are actually going to learn in our sessions. Okay, so I'll go on to the topics which we are going to cover pretty much on the expectation, right? On whatever I've been talking about from a role perspective, what is expected. That is what we have tailored in such a way that all these topics are covered during our sessions. Okay, as I said, we will start with the Java basics, JVM basics, because that is something required as a to start with, so that you whatever you be able to learn from an engineering perspective, the basics is covered. You have those terminologies. You will be able to visualize it, how it is going to be, right? Without knowing how a 10-20 class files are going to be organized, how a call is going to get uh, um, uh, called from a main program, and then how it's going to go into the subsequent classes, subsequent methods, right? Those are the root cause analysis. When we go into look into root cause analysis, we'll go and say which class file is taking more time, which class file is which method is taking more time, which class file is calling which another class file. All these either tree hierarchy, we are going to look into the root cause analysis. So it's very important to learn these Java basics, JVM basics at the beginning. We're not going to go very in depth so that it will confuse ourselves, right? We're going to learn in such a way that it is going to be effective for us to learn the engineering. Okay, so we'll get started with the Java basics, JVM basics, and then we'll put ourselves in a situation where you're getting involved into a project where as part of the shift left, right? So when we typically get into a project, we go and start with some requirements, and then do a scripting, and then go do an execution reporting. But performance engineer gets involved in the project very early, right? Say if it is a 1-year project, normally from a testing perspective, we get involved in the after 6 months or 7 months or 6 months maybe, then start getting a requirement, do a scripting, execution, and then reporting. But from an engineering perspective, we get involved much early, maybe in the 3rd month or a 4th month, work along with the developer as it gets developed. Okay, we take every screen, take every APIs, every services, we go into the memory profiling, we go into a CPU profiling, a client-side profiling to make sure that the response times are optimized. Memory footprint is optimized to make sure that there are no memory leaks. Okay, so we'll get into a situation where we assume that there's a project where application is getting deployed, and then we'll go through this shift left activities, early performance engineering, response time analysis, to see how we can optimize the response time from a server side, from a client side. On the right hand side, I've also given the tools that we will be using it. Okay, so for the response time analysis, we'll be using JProfiler, Tomcat access logs, Chrome Dev Tools. Okay, and also we'll use a real-time application. I'll just go and start my Tomcat. And one more thing is, whatever we are going to practice, whatever we are going to do an hands-on, everything you'll be able to do it on yourself. Okay, all the softwares will be given to you. All the artifacts, whatever we do it, all the documents which we create, all the prerequisite softwares and tools. Though there are few open source, there are few commercial, but everything has a trial version. Okay, so 100% whatever I do and so on, you will be able to go back, install those tools, install those softwares in a laptop, and you should be able to use it. Okay, and all these things will be available in the drive, which we will share it to you. Okay, so in the drive, access will be given to you. In the drive, you will have every software, every tools, the references to the tools, references to the software which has to be installed, and also all the artifacts as well, whatever we created, all the scripts, all the engineering documents, all the profiling documents, the EBDUMs, ThreadDUMs, GC log files. So every folder is organized in such a way that whatever we practice, it will be there in the shared drive, and then you can download and use it on your own. Okay, the war files which we are going to use it, for example, in the Tomcat which I started now, if you go back in the web app folder, okay, you have this e-library application. Okay, the e-library application is what we will use it for our all the engineering and testing activities. Okay, let me go and start this. Tomcat has started, so you will get this page when you load the URL. Okay, and then you log in. So all this login, and then all other transactions that is available within this e-library app, will be using it for all this profiling, be it as a memory profiling, be it a response time profiling. What we'll do is we will have a code where I will have I would have created this response time issue. I would have introduced the memory issue, and then we'll come to e-library application. We will test it. We'll try to see if there is a problem. If there is a problem, we'll try to do a diagnosis. We'll try to do a response time analysis or memory profiling or leak analysis, and then find out the root cause. And then we'll we'll go and fix it in the code, and then we'll deploy it again, and then see whether the fix is working or not. So that is the kind of practical sessions we are going to have it, right? Most of these things are going to be pretty much practical. We will have the code, we will have the warfare getting deployed, and then we'll go and do this engineering activity, pretty much everything as a hands-on. I'll also open the Eclipse and show you the code as well for each and everything. Okay, so all these things are going to be available for you: the war file, the code, the software tools for you to do the hands-on. Okay, and what is required from you? Bare minimum prerequisite is a laptop, latest Java, because any software you install, even for Jmeter, you need Java, right? So for us to use the Tomcat, for us to use this e-library application, for us to use the JProfiler, all the tools, we need Java. Okay, and then Eclipse, it is good to have, so that you can also import the code, and then from a troubleshooting perspective, from the root cause analysis perspective, you can also go and look into which code is having a problem. Okay, even though we don't have a knowledge on Java or any programming language, it is good to have a look into the code, so that whatever analysis you do with the tools, it is going to say that, okay, this class file is having a problem, this method is having a problem. If you can go back to the Eclipse, you can open the project and look into those class files. It will give a good idea about what is happening, rather than it is being a black box. Okay, so simple tools, bare minimum is Java, Eclipse, Tomcat, the whatever Java application code and what I'm going to give it. Okay, and then JProfiler, JVisual VM, JConsole, and a lot more tools. As we go along with the sessions, you might be have to go and install these tools. Okay, which you will have complete instructions in the drive. To start with, these are the bare minimum what you might require to do the hands-on practice along with the not along during the session, but after sessions are completed, when you get time in the daytime or in the weekend, for you to practice, these things are all required. Okay, so as I said earlier, all these things you can listen to the sessions, you can listen as many time as you want, but at least if you can practice once in a weekday, in a weekend, or whenever you get time, right, at least once, if you can go and do a hands-on, then you can go and confidently go and talk to the team in the interview or anywhere. So the thing that I've learned, I also practiced all these things. Okay, it makes a lot of difference rather than just listening versus going and practicing it on your own. Okay, so you will get all the required softwares, tools, access, everything for you to go and perform it, and it is not going to be rocket science at all, right? Everything you will be able to follow and do it pretty much on your own. Okay, so from going back to the topics. Okay, so we will start with the response time analysis and then go back to the your memory leak analysis. We'll go and learn the basics about Java heap, Java stack, look into some of the common problem with the stack, common problem with the heap. Then we look into the leak analysis, heap dump analysis, GC analysis. Okay, from a memory perspective, we'll have the all these 4 or 5 topics running over a week time very easily. We'll go and learn the basics, and also from a leak analysis, heap dump analysis, and the GC analysis. Pretty much everything, 80-90%, everything is going to be practical with the, that live application. Going to learn all these topics. Okay, so when it comes to your architecture, right, when it comes to performance related activities, you have a couple of things. One is your response time layer. You have to look into CPU, you have to look into the memory, you have to look into the threads. See, all these things are all directly, it will impact your performance, right? So we will learn the CPU response time problems, memory, heap, and then the thread in that sequence, right? So we'll go and look into the Java threads. What are the how the threads are created, how threads are destroyed, what are the thread life cycle, what are the thread contentions, what are the typical problems we will encounter, thread dump analysis. So all these things from a thread perspective, we will learn and do a deep dive. And one of the other component, the client-side analysis, client-side profiling, from a end-user perspective. Again, it is one more area, very, very interesting, very commonly talked about by so many people. Okay, so we'll go and learn the client-side profiling concepts. What are the engineering recommendation we will give from a client-side perspective? What are the various metrics we need to measure? How client-side measurement has to be done along with your load testing execution. So all these things we'll learn from a client-side perspective. And all these things pretty much are from the early performance shift left, right? So from a testing perspective, when you're ready for execution, we normally create performance testing strategy. We should also go and create a monitoring strategy, because end of the day, our job is to not only to do execution, we should also be able to go and in every component, we should be able to go and observe what is happening, right? For each component in your software, we should be able to go and monitor from a CPU, memory, resource utilization perspective. So you should have a very good monitoring strategy to know what tools are available, what are the components involved in your architecture, how are you going to monitor it. So you should have a very good transparency about all these components. Otherwise, what will happen is you will say that my response time is high, my server is crashed, but you will not have a visibility of what all components are there, which components are having a CPU problem, which components are having a memory problem. So you should have a complete visibility on what components are involved, how many servers are there, how am I going to monitor each components? That is all about your monitoring strategy. Okay, so we'll go and learn how to create a monitoring strategy, and then from a monitoring perspective, we look into two aspects. One is the commercial, one is the open source. Okay, so APM, as I told, it's very anybody without a diagnostic tool, it's not going to be easy for them to do any analysis at all. Okay, so we'll go and learn from an AppDynamics perspective how to use the AppDynamics cloud, how to install the AppDynamics agent into a Java application server, how to configure it, and then we'll go and look into all the monitoring, configuration, alerting, diagnostics, root cause analysis, bottleneck analysis. All these things we'll learn it from a AppDynamics perspective. Any APM tool you take, there are multiple APM tool, right? Neuralink, you have Dynatrace. So from a conceptually, what you're going to do in the APM tool is not going to change, right? Say for example, LoadRunner versus Jmeter, concepts are same: parameterization, correlation, error handling, everything is same, concepts are same, only the tool is different. Same way, any engineering tool, you might be using JProfiler, in some other project you might be using some other profiling tool, but concepts are going to be pretty much same. Our performance is always tool agnostics, right? Every project will have their own tools. We cannot go and master the tool. What we are trying to do is master the concepts. Okay, so we'll go and learn the AppDynamics, and also we'll go and learn one of the very popular open source monitoring tool called Telegraph and Grafana. Okay, combination of Telegraph, InfluxDB, and Chronograph or Grafana. We'll go and learn how to use this, how to install, configure, so that you don't need to rely on the others to set up the monitoring. Okay, we can set up our own basic monitoring. So we'll go and deep dive, learn about the tech stack. So with the combination of AppDynamics and this monitoring tool, we'll go and probably run a small load test, and then probably under troubleshoot response time problem, or troubleshoot some of the latency problems from a real-time perspective. Okay, all these layers are pretty much from a front end or from the server side, right? It is also good to, though there are going to be database performance engineer. Database engineering is a separate stream by itself, but at least from an application perspective, you should be able to go and analyze some of the database issues, right? Like the buffer cache issue or parsing issue or SQL taking more time. From application perspective, we're not going to go and tune databases. We're not going to go and set the memories. We're not going to go and redefine the schemas. That is up to a database performance engineer. We will not get involved there at all. Okay, but from a more from an application perspective, we'll try to see how to make use of AWR reports, how to configure the snapshots, how to configure the AWR reports, how to get the AWR report. What are all things we will be looking into AWR report from a parsing perspective, from a buffer cache perspective, from SQL perspective. We'll try to go and learn these from a Oracle database performance. Okay, and at the end, we'll go and learn the non-functional requirements and engineering strategy. This used to be the first session earlier, but once we go and learn all these topics from our engineering, then we ourselves will be comfortable to go and write an engineering strategy. What an engineering strategy is, what are all the activities we have to do it, how to do it, what to do it, when to do it, all these things we will learn from a strategy perspective. Okay, and then a little bit out of topic from engineering, because these are the ones which are trending in the market, right? Though you're going to go and say you know all these things, still people expect you to talk about certain things. One especially from a DevOps, how to bring in performance testing into the pipeline, how to run some automated performance testing using say Jenkins, Jmeter. So we'll go and look into it practically. What are the challenges from continuous testing? How performance will fit there? What are things which we need to take care? How to integrate Jenkins and Jmeter, right? So some practical sessions also will have it, but along with that, more from a real-time experience, how to enable performance testing into the continuous testing, we will discuss and we will learn. And second topic is synthetic monitoring. Okay, that is again more from a production perspective. This is a very hot topic. There are a lot of people talking about site reliability engineering. Synthetic monitoring is one of the key aspects there. So we'll learn what is synthetic monitoring. We'll also use Dynatrace tool to create some of the synthetic scripts and then go and execute go and schedule it. Okay, so that is one of the good topic we will learn more from the future readiness. And then cloud, right? Cloud is everywhere. Though engineering is not going to change a lot because underlying is still an application. As application performance engineering, all these things are going to be relevant. Just that it is going to get hosted in a cloud. So we'll try to understand what it is different from a cloud perspective, from an engineering perspective, what it is going to change. If at all it is going to change, what is going to change? What are additional things which we might need to do it? What is resiliency, auto scaling? So all these concepts we will try to understand, learn. So because these things, you will definitely, people will get ask you about all these things. What is chaos? What is chaos testing? What is resiliency testing? Auto scaling? So we should be able to aware of all these topics. We should be able to go and confidently talk about all these things. Okay. Additionally, we'll also provide the I've been taking sessions on Linux for performance testers, performance for Selenium. So these once you enrolled, you will be getting additional videos of whatever I have taken from my batches. Linux, close to 8 hours of Linux videos, and then close to 6 to 8 hours of performance automation for Selenium. These things you will get it as a bonus as well. Okay, so pretty much we are going to build, deploy, test it, identify a problem. That's how we are going to learn most of the topics. Okay, and these are things which you might need to have it in your laptop to practice it every day, every week, at least once all these topics, so that you can get comfortable. Okay, I'll take a pause here, guys. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat, or if you have any doubts, also you can unmute and you can ask your questions.
Hi, Satish, Dilesh here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Satish, actually, how many days of this course is the total duration of the course?
Okay, the duration of course is going to be close to 3 to 4 weeks. Depends upon various factors, but yeah, around 3 to 4 weeks is what the sessions would be. Close to 20, 22 hours. So every day we are going to have 1 hour. Sometimes it might be 45 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour, 10 minutes, depending upon a topic which we are going to choose. And it's going to be mostly Monday to Friday. Some in some of the week we might also have a Saturday alone, which we will inform it earlier, depending upon the acceptance. We'll go with Saturday. Okay, so it is going to be pretty much a month. You can assume that, so that you can plan your activities accordingly. 1 month time is what you can actually plan for.
Okay. What timings? Morning or evening?
Timing is going to be the same time, the time which we started today, right? It's going to be pretty much same time. But again, it depends upon majority of the people as well. If majority of the people wants only in the evening, we might start our evening batch later. But for this batch, it's going to be the same time which we started today.
Okay. What about the SRE? Means that is a totally separate course, SRE?
Yeah. See, SRE asks multiple things. Site reliability.
Yeah.
Engineering is one of that. Okay. In different places, people talk about SRE in a different way. But if you go with the clear definition, SRE is going to have multiple things: testing, engineering, and resiliency, chaos, synthetic monitoring, observability. You can actually put everything. Okay. In this course, we are going to cover engineering. We are also going to cover a little bit of synthetic monitoring and the concepts about the chaos. But there are courses which is separately available for SRE itself within Asia.
Okay. So my question is, why the companies are using AppDynamics and Dynamics, not using SiteScope and CA Wiley? Because nowadays, max of the companies are expecting AppDynamics, Dynamics, not SiteScope and Wiley.
See, correct.
Is there any reason?
Yes, yes, yes. See, CA Wiley or Wiley Intrascope or Sitescope, they are meant for monitoring. Initially, when they came into the market, even now their strengths are monitoring, getting the stats out from a server, from the infrastructure, from the application. Your AppDynamics and Dynatrace are your performance management tool, diagnostic tools. Okay, and they can also do monitoring. Okay, so that is the reason these tools are very popular. AppDynamics, Dynatrace, Neuralink, whereas Sitescopes and Wiley, they are also catching up. They also started doing some of the diagnostics, but far inferior to what Dynatrace and AppDynamics are doing it. Okay, since they initially, at least 3-4 years back, Sitescope and Wiley Intrascope are meant for purely a monitoring stuff. Okay, and Dynatrace and AppDynamics are more from the diagnostics, from the troubleshooting, from the um, uh, observability perspective. They've been far more superior. Though now Sitescope and Introscopes are catching up, and they are also having this capability, but the market is having a view that um, different tools are going to be used for different purposes. For example, you have CloudWatch. If you're using AWS, you're going to have a CloudWatch, and people are still going to use CloudWatch because they are native to AWS. On top of that, they are going to use the APM tool, and they are going to use these tools like Splunk for log monitoring. Okay, so it's more from authors for the courses, whichever is going to give you complete good details. They're going to use those tools. So in a project, you might see it. They might still use Sitescope. Again, coming to licensing as well, right? If you have a very huge architecture, or if you have multiple enterprise, okay, some of the project might use still Sitescope because they might not need diagnostic. They just need a monitoring. It's not a mission critical application. At the end of the day, it depends upon how many applications you have, how many are critical, what is your licensing, do you need diagnostics, or just do you need a monitoring. Sitescope, from a monitoring perspective, it might be doing superior work when it compared to Dynatrace. You never know. Right? So that is how people evaluate the tools and they use it. To answer your question, when it comes to diagnostics, when it comes to these kind of observability, Dynatrace and AppDynamics are superior than the other tools what you mentioned.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Satish, just
Tomorrow
to
onward, the class is. Sorry. Yeah, you can continue.
yeah, sorry. Satish, just to reconfirm, so we are going to practice all the tools, right? Which you have shown.
Yeah, that true. Yes. So see, recommendation is, if you practice it, it will give you more confidence. Right? See, a lot of places, what is the problem is, they will ask you whether you have experience. Let's say if you go to interview, or within your organization itself, if you want to take a performance engineering role, the problem is cat and mouse. They will ask you whether you have experience. You will tell you don't have an experience, right? But unless you get an exposure, you will not get an experience. So we cannot wait for a project where they will give a chance, they'll give an opportunity. Rather, if we practice it on your own, you have an application now. I'll give an application. You have a database. You have an application. You have a response time problem. You have a memory problem. You can go and do a heap dump. You can go and do a deep thread dump. You can do a GC analysis. You can do a AWS analysis. You can do a client-side profiling. You can do all these things on your own. If you do an hands-on, then you can at least go and say that I have learned, I have done hands-on. Now people might recognize you, and then you also will have a confidence. So from that perspective, it is good to do an hands-on, and you can go and install tools, software, everything on your own in your laptop, and you can pretty much practice it after these sessions are over in a daytime or in the weekend. That is what we recommend.
Right. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Even AppDynamics, what we are going to learn, right? You will be able to go and do it on your own. You can set up your own cloud account. You can go and configure the agent the way we are going to do it in this session. And then you're going to connect that agent with your Java e-library application. You can run few tests in Jmeter, and then you can go and do a monitoring. You can do a response time analysis, bottleneck analysis. So even though we are going to use AppDynamics, which is a commercial tool, you would be able to do it practically hands-on everything. Every tool we are going to use it, you will be able to do it hands-on by yourself.
Got it. Thanks, Satish.
So Satish, which laptop is better, Mac or Windows?
See, ideally, all these things will work in different ways for sure. But from a learning perspective, it is good to have a Windows laptop. But if you have Mac also, maybe the way I do it in Windows might be different because the packages are different, the installation
Yeah,
processes are different. But
that's right.
if you're comfortable in Mac, it's all the same.
Yeah, okay, that's what I am asking because yeah, okay, thank you.
Everything, yeah. It's a Mac end of the day, it's also Linux, right? So all these things will work for Mac.
Yeah, Linux, yeah, but the thing is, it's little bit difficult to install some
Yes,
other things in command prompt, these
correct.
all things, no? So yeah,
True.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. But people have done it earlier. People who attend the sessions have used Mac, and most of the tools. Rather than most of the tools, every tool will work. I'm pretty much sure. Only thing is, I don't have an. If you say that something is not working right, for Windows, I can provide you immediately what could be a problem. But with Mac, you might have to do some extra work. That's it.
Okay, yes,
Yeah,
I know that. Thank you.
yeah.
So to whom will I contact to join the course?
Yeah,
What's the process?
reach out to, yeah, you can reach out to Kumar sir. He's there in the WhatsApp group. He's an admin, one of the admin. Okay,
Okay,
or you can post a message in the WhatsApp group itself. For anything related to the course fees or registration, you can reach out to Kumar sir. If anyone have any questions about the course details, or if you have any further questions, if you want to discuss further, if you wanted to understand whether this course is going to be helpful or not, right, you can reach out to me during the daytime. We can catch up if you have any questions or clarification.
okay, sure. What's the
Okay,
duration
Satish.
of the SRE course, Satish? SRE, if I want to after
um
this course, if I
SRE course
interested,
pretty
SRE
much same, or maybe more.
duration, total
Yeah,
duration
I
is
think it might be the same or little bit. I'm not very sure, but it might be around the same is what my understanding is. You can again reach out to Kumar sir. Okay,
okay.
you can probably discuss upon, yeah, what is the current role, what you're trying to learn, and you can also advise on what's right for you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Satish.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions, guys? Feel free to ask, or even if you have questions offline, you can put it in the chat, or you can reach out to me in a separate in the WhatsApp chat. We can connect sometime if you have any questions on the relevant, whether it is relevant or not for you, whether it is going to be useful or not to you. If you have any questions, you can feel free to discuss, and then you can take up the course. Okay.
Satish, here, Java basics, will it be covered, right?
Again, basics from a engineering perspective, it will be covered for sure. Um, uh, uh, we are not going to go and write programs or create applications, right?
Okay.
But from an engineering perspective, definitely both the JVM and Java will cover that. Yeah, that's what I've created in the first two topics itself, right? We will get we'll go and do, we'll go and install Eclipse, we'll go and create few programs, we'll go and run it, we'll see how two class files are going to work, what is class, what is method, how to create a HTTP connection, how to create a DB connection. But all these things from an engineering perspective, for it should help you when doing the engineering. That is the intention of getting to this Java basics and JVM basics. How to compile, how to create a war file, how to create a jar file, how to deploy a war file in a Tomcat. What is JVM? What are the various components of JVM? Heap, stack, right? All these things we'll cover it from a JVM perspective also.
Yeah, thanks, Satish.
Yeah. See, we are in a place where we are already into performance testing engineering. We cannot go and learn Java, say, book theoretically, right? So I cannot go and learn the OOPS concept. I cannot go and learn the Java structures or your data structures. If you go by book, right, then it is one, we will not have time. Then I have tried multiple times in the past. We'll lose interest, right? Going by book will be starting very interesting, then we'll lose interest. So it should be other way around. We should start writing programs. Okay, we should create our own requirement. Right, just start writing single program. There are multiple solutions available in the internet. Say if I want to go and say how to read a CSV file, how to write CSV file into a say JSON, I'll get multiple options in the internet. I'll just go and copy the program, put it here, and then try to understand what they're doing it. Right, how they read a CSV, what library they use it, what library they use for JSON, how they write a program, how do they parse it. More of a reverse engineering is what we need to do it to keep ourselves interesting. And also we don't have if you are very early in your IT, just 1 year experience in IT, then if you want to be a core Java programmer, then you can go with the book way. If you are a performance tester, if you want to get into performance engineering, and then for you to learn Java, the best way is to other way around. Write programs, copy the algorithm from the internet, do a reverse engineering, understand the libraries used, understand why it is written in such a way. That way, you can, if you wanted to become good in Java, it'll be more effective, more practical, more engaging as well. So that is what we also will try to do it in this basics as well.
Yeah, fine. So somebody is asking double SS request testing something in
Yeah,
chat.
I saw that. Can you please probably explain what is WSS request you're referring here? Web services or what is that?
Manindra, are you there? Okay.
Yeah, probably you can, if you can explain that question, I can answer. See, we're not going to get into any of the specific testing areas, but we can definitely discuss, right? There are a lot of people who are already doing testing. I can probably we can discuss on how it can be done. Maybe it is not part of our topics, but more from a general knowledge sharing. We can probably whatever situation you are in a project, you have a problem, you have an issue. If you wanted to probably brainstorm, that we can definitely do it because it is good for everybody to do a share the knowledge. But we cannot go and cover include every topic. That is not going to help the flow of the course as well.
And I have one question, Satish. Hi. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can able to hear you.
Yeah. So in this, I don't see Splunk. So are you going to cover Splunk? Because I believe that is also used in performance tuning quite frequently, right?
Yeah, Splunk is not covered as part of the course. Okay, so Splunk is, I would say, more from the error logging or error monitoring or exception monitoring or any log monitoring is what we use as Splunk, right? So yeah, this course we are not planning to use or cover Splunk. We thought already we were covering too many topics and kind of overwhelming. So we don't cover Splunk here as part of the course. The way we will still use AppDynamics. In the AppDynamics, you can do all the exception analysis or error log analysis. We will cover that in the AppDynamics itself. But Splunk itself, it's a very vast tool. It is good to have in your enterprise kind of a dedicated tool for your logs, but that is not covered in the topic. Yeah, there's a separate Splunk course itself. If you're interested, I can probably ask the team to share it with you. But it is not covered part of this course.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. See, obviously we do a lot of things in testing and engineering, right? If somebody is going to ask me whether this tool is going to be included, or say SiteScope or Wiley, right? We can keep including many tools, but we tailored this in such a way that we cover all the areas from a profiling, from the heap dumps, from a GCs, from a thread dumps, from the APM tool, from the Telegraph kind of open source tools, AWR reports. So we want to cover the entire spectrum, but there is no boundary at all, right? We can keep adding any topics, but we want to have it in such a way that minimal things are covered, so that people can go and practice it and use it in their project. If you have a specific requirement, like one person talk about SRE, or if you talk about Splunk, there are separate courses available which you can probably look into it as well.
So here we are covering a lot of concepts, means the particular tool concept. Other tools, different tools are available, but the concept we know, then we can use the tools and we can do the R&D. Not a problem for that.
We are going to
With
look into the concept. Look into the concept
yeah, just like
along with
just like you told that Jmeter or LoadRunner or NeoLoad, whatever the tool. If
exactly.
we know concept, then we can use the tool little bit different, but we can the concept we know, then R&D we can do it. Yeah, like that.
Absolutely.
Different tools is available here for different
Correct.
monitoring or networking, whatever. Yeah.
The concept along with the commonly used tool, be it is a profiling or whichever area we are going to talk about, we are going to do it practically. A concept plus practically hands-on. But in your project, you might have a different situation. You might have a different tool, or you might have a different environment. But the knowledge what we are going to get it from this hands-on, you can easily apply it everywhere in your situation as well, because every project, every situation, every architecture, every components, every tool is going to be different. So we cannot go and keep on learning everything from a course perspective, but you can definitely go and apply this into your environment. That is how it is going to work. Any course anywhere, it's not going to be generic for everything, because architecture is going to be very, very, very different, right? Yeah, you are right.
Yeah, Satish, I want to leave. Okay.
Yeah, I'm also done. Thanks guys. Thanks everyone for taking up this time. We'll meet tomorrow again. Okay. If you have any questions offline, put it in the chat, or if you have any questions with the course registration, right, you can reach out to Master. Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. Any questions?
Satish, the actual classes will start tomorrow, or the demo class again continues tomorrow?
No, see, it will start from tomorrow. Okay, so though it will be allowed for probably a day, maybe tomorrow or day after, people will be still allowed to join to look into the course. But yeah, I'll start the course from tomorrow, from the way I wanted to cover it.
Okay.
Tomorrow,
So
or maximum.
Actual classes will be starting from tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah. Tomorrow, or worst case from day after.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And Satish,
Okay,
I've messaged you my number, so please add me to the WhatsApp group that you mentioned, so that I am aware of the next class.
Okay, sure. Where did you message? My WhatsApp number, is it?
I messaged you on this chat privately.
Oh, okay. Let me look into it. Yeah, sure.
thank you. Thanks all.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks all. Thanks everyone for your time, and we'll meet tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.